Lisa Blutter's name comes up not in passing, but with purpose. Caitlin Clark reflects on her time at Iowa and the lessons about culture, trust, and structure that shaped her, not just as a player, but as a person navigating her public role. That context sharpens when she begins to voice frustrations about how things have been handled in Indiana. There's no loud criticism, but the disappointment is clear. The support system she once thrived in has been replaced by one that feels reactive, scattered, maybe even misaligned with who she is at her core. The contrast isn't petty. It's a quiet indictment of what happens when team culture fails to evolve with the athlete.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
Clark isn't just identifying a problem. She's mapping out what success needs to look like moving forward. She wants alignment between her values, her team, and her public-facing partnerships. That's why her alliances with brands like Eli Lilly matter. They aren't surface-level sponsorships. They reflect her desire to lead with meaning, whether that's through health advocacy, women's sports promotion, or simply showing up more fully as herself. She's no longer playing just to win games. She's playing to build something that lasts. Caitlin Clark has finally said what everyone's been thinking. And no, she didn't sugarcoat a thing. In her new interview with Lilly Glamour, Clark peeled back layers we haven't seen before. This wasn't another tightly managed media moment or a basic post-game quote. This was real, honest, unfiltered, and it came at a time when people were beginning to question who she really was beneath the endorsements and stat lines. Let's be clear, this was a major shift from the Caitlin Clark we've seen over the last few months. The one who's been mostly silent during the off-season. The one who's been making headlines for her game, but giving very little away personally. That distance didn't go unnoticed. But now we know it wasn't about image control. It was about pressure, weight, burnout. And for the first time, she said so. In this interview, Clark opened up about needing something to hold on to in the chaos. And for her, that's family. Her relationship with her mom, that's her foundation. She described her mother as her emotional anchor, especially during times when everything felt like it was spiraling. Injury, performance pressure, mental fatigue. Her mom was the one constant she could turn to. And then there's the detail that caught people off guard in the best way. Clark finds peace in cooking, not as a hobby, but as a real, intentional practice. When things get overwhelming, she creates stability through home-cooked meals. It's how she creates a safe space, a sense of normalcy, in a world that often feels anything but. These aren't throwaway confessions. They're clear signs that Clark is searching for balance. And that vulnerability isn't just refreshing, it's necessary. Especially now, because this isn't just about Caitlin's personal life. It's about how she sees herself inside the system of professional sports, and how that system hasn't always been working for her. She reflected on her time under Coach Lisa Blutter at Iowa, someone who clearly shaped her outlook. Blutter didn't just teach her how to compete. She taught her how to lead, how to understand the power of team culture. That environment, that sense of collective purpose, made Clark the kind of player who sees beyond the scoreboard. And it's that perspective that's now clashing with what she's experiencing in the WNBA. Because in this same interview, Clark voiced subtle, but pointed frustration with the Indiana Fever. Her remarks about team dynamics and workload were careful, but not vague. She's not happy. She's not getting the kind of structure or support she needs to thrive. And she's letting people know. This wasn't a call-out. It was a warning. Clark's competitive spirit is undeniable. But she's also made it clear she won't let that spirit be exploited. She's asking for a team environment that doesn't just use her talent, but actually respects it, builds around it, honors it. And right now, that's not happening. That honesty is what's so striking. Because Caitlin Clark is very aware of what she represents. She's not just a player. She's a symbol for where women's sports are headed. And she's refusing to let that symbol be flattened or hollowed out by bad management or media spin. Her remarks about strategic brand partnerships only confirm that. When she talked about her work with Eli Lilly, she didn't frame it as just another deal. It was a deliberate choice, a move aligned with her values. supporting women's sports, backing companies that are in it for long-term change, not just short-term profit. This is a player who's thinking beyond the moment. She's planning for a career that means something after the buzzer sounds. And she's modeling what it looks like to turn visibility into power and power into impact. She also made it a point to call out the trailblazers who shaped her. Maya Moore Master Collection, Maya Moore. Mia Hamm Master Collection, Mia Hamm. Two athletes who didn't just dominate, they transformed. Moore, known for walking away from basketball to focus on social justice. Hamm, one of the original forces behind the rise of women's soccer in the U.S. These aren't casual references. These are the blueprints Caitlin is following. She respects athletes who didn't just win, but used their wins, who built legacies rooted in integrity, in change, in leadership. And now, she's carving out her own space in that lineage. You can feel that shift happening in real time. She talked about her roots in Iowa, not just as a background detail, but as a grounding force. It's where her love for the game started. It's where the passion was real before everything got corporate, before every move came with a press cycle. She wants to go back to that, to joy, to playing because she loves it, not because a league or a sponsor demands it. And that desire, it's not about nostalgia. It's about survival. Because what she's dealing with now isn't just physical, it's emotional. It's psychological. Being the face of women's basketball comes with a level of scrutiny that's relentless. And she's saying clearly, that can't continue unless there's support. Real support. That includes her fans, too. She acknowledged the gap, that sense of distance that's crept in during the off-season. And she owned it. She knows that silence can come off as detachment. But she explained that it came from overwhelm, not indifference. That she's working to bridge that divide, to let people in. Because fans don't just want highlights, they want connection. And this interview was her way of showing that she gets it. She's not just rebuilding her public image, she's reasserting control over it. After months of being reduced to a talking point in debates, a logo on merchandise, a headline on sports talk shows, she finally took the mic back and reminded people that she's a full person. She speaks, the timing of this matters too, because she's heading into a major season. One that includes a shoe release. One where all eyes are on how she performs under pressure. And instead of dodging that, she addressed it head-on by showing people what's actually going on beneath the surface. That's not just gutsy, it's smart. Because people don't connect with perfection. They connect with honesty, with real stories, with struggle. And Caitlin Clark is now telling that story with her own voice, on her own terms. She's not just an athlete anymore. She's becoming a leader, one who can admit when things aren't working, one who can highlight the gaps in the system while still performing inside of it, one who refuses to pretend that being great means being silent. That kind of leadership, it's what defines icons. If she keeps going down this path, prioritizing truth over polish, purpose over performance, she's going to outlast every headline, every trend, every doubter, because she's building something real. Not just for herself, but for the next generation watching. And now the question shifts. Will the Indiana Fever meet her where she's at? Will the WNBA listen when one of its biggest stars says the system needs to do better? Will fans stick with her as she shifts from highlight reel to human being? Let us know how you feel about this shift. Are you glad Caitlin finally opened up? What do you think her comments say about the state of the Fever and the WNBA at large? And do you see her becoming the kind of leader women's sports need right now? Like the video if you're here for athletes keeping it honest. Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter of this story. Because if Caitlin's just getting started, it's going to be a hell of a ride. What Caitlin Clark just did wasn't flashy. It wasn't loud. But make no mistake, it was louder than any buzzer beater she's hit. Because for months, she's been the face of a movement she didn't even fully get to define. Everyone had something to say about her. Sports analysts debated her performance. Critics questioned her hype. Social media nitpicked every expression, every loss, every brand partnership. The narrative was being written about her, not with her. And finally, in this sit-down with Lilly for Glamour, Caitlin hit pause on the noise and rewrote the script herself. and she did it without theatrics. No dramatic speech. No cryptic tweets. Just a calm, clear conversation that said everything she needed it to. She started by talking about her mother, her anchor, the person who held her down when everything else was up in the air. And that wasn't just a sweet anecdote, it was context. A way to understand how much of Caitlyn's strength comes from the unseen places. Because behind every headline and every court appearance, there's still a daughter who calls her mom when she's unraveling. That's not weakness, it's depth. It's what grounds her when the rest of her world is spinning on highlight reels and stat breakdowns. And that world has been spinning fast. Since the moment she stepped into the WNBA spotlight, Caitlin Clark has been expected to do everything: score, lead, inspire, sell, represent. All at once. And now we finally know it's been too much. The pressure hasn't just been intense. It's been relentless. So when she said she finds solace in cooking, it landed harder than anyone expected. Because it wasn't just about food, it was about control. Creating something with your hands. Bringing order to a world that so often feels like it's operating above your head. She's making a safe space in a life where so few moments actually feel safe. It's a quiet rebellion. A reminder that even in the chaos of fame, there's still something personal. Something real. And it's through these details, these small but powerful insights, that Caitlyn is finally letting people see her. And then she shifted gears. She spoke about Coach Lisa Blooder, her college mentor. The woman who built a team culture that felt like family. Who taught Caitlyn how to lead not just with her game, but with her values. You could hear the contrast in her voice. Because what she had in Iowa isn't what she's getting now. And it's clear she misses it. Not just the structure, but the sense of unity. And that leads directly into the most talked about part of the interview. Her barely veiled criticism of the Indiana Fever. Let's be real, she didn't name names. She didn't blow things up, but her words carried weight. She's not happy with the way things have been handled. The workload, the chemistry, the lack of support. It's all taken a toll, not just physically, but mentally. And she's not pretending otherwise. That's a massive moment. Because when athletes speak out about their environment, it's often seen as controversy. But Caitlyn didn't sound bitter. She sounded honest. And that's far more powerful. She's showing that even at her level, even with all the visibility and endorsements, things can still be broken behind the scenes. And she's saying it matters. Because team culture isn't fluff. It's the foundation. And when that foundation's cracked, even the most talented players can't fix it alone. That message wasn't just for fans, it was for the league. Because when Caitlyn Clark critiques the system, people listen. And whether it's about minutes management, internal cohesion, or the emotional strain of carrying a franchise, her words hit different. Because she's the draw right now. The ticket sales, the ratings boost, the brand magnet. And she's using that leverage to say, I need better. But what really makes this interview stand out is how much of it was about others. About Maya Moore, about Mia Hamm, about the women who came before her and did more than just play, they shifted culture. And Caitlyn made it clear, she's not here just to break records. She's here to stand for something. Like Moore, who paused her career to fight for justice. Like Hamm, who helped elevate an entire sport. These aren't just her idols, they're her compass. And now, she's positioning herself to follow that same path. It's not performative. It's strategic. That's also why her partnership with Eli Lilly matters. Most endorsement deals are surface level. But Clark explained why this one is different. It's not just about visibility. It's about value alignment. Supporting women's health. Investing in the long game of women's sports. That's where her head is at. Long-term. Purpose-driven. Not just chasing paychecks, but using her platform with intention. Because Caitlyn Clark isn't just trying to succeed. She's trying to matter. That's why she brought up her roots in Iowa. Not as a cute detail, but as a foundation. It's where she learned to play with joy, to compete with passion, to build character. And she's craving that joy again. The pure, no-agenda love for the game. That spark has been dimmed by the pressure, the spotlight, the expectations. And now, she's working to get it back. That's not something you say casually. That's something you say when you're at a turning point. And the timing? Couldn't be more critical. She's heading into a season with massive weight. A new shoe release. All eyes on whether she can deliver. And instead of burying herself in training clips and brand teasers, she sat down and told the truth. Because she knows, if fans don't feel connected, none of this lasts. The hype fades. The noise shifts. What stays is the relationship. In this interview, it's a reset, a way to tell fans, I hear you, I see the disconnect, and I'm here now. It's a reclamation of her own narrative. And let's be honest, she needed this. Because for a while, the silence was speaking louder than her games. The polished image, the distance, the lack of transparency, it all started to feel too controlled, too corporate, and fans could tell. But now, she's pulling back the curtain. And the reaction? Immediate. Because people don't connect with perfection. They connect with truth. And what Caitlyn just did was show the full picture. She speaks, not just the athlete, not just the prodigy, but the human being, the one who gets frustrated, who feels unsupported, who misses home, who wants to play with joy again. That's the kind of vulnerability that lasts. That resonates. That builds legacy. And if she stays on this path, stays open, stays grounded, keeps speaking out when it counts, she's going to build something far bigger than a highlight reel. She's going to build a movement, a career that means something beyond what happens on the court. So now it's not just about how Caitlin Clark plays this season. It's about what she represents. For women in sports, for young athletes, for anyone trying to maintain identity in a world that constantly tries to define you. She's not asking for perfection. She's asking for space, for respect, for the room to grow without being crushed by the weight of being everything to everyone. And by saying that out loud, she's doing more than most athletes ever get the chance to. And here's the real kicker. Caitlin Clark didn't need to do this interview. She could have kept her head down, said nothing, and let the headlines keep spinning whatever narrative worked best for media, sponsors, or her team. She could have ridden out the season, gritted her teeth through the pressure, and stuck to the script. But she didn't. She showed up. She spoke clearly. She revealed just enough to change the tone of the conversation. Not too much, not dramatic, but enough. Enough for fans to feel like they know her again. Enough for people inside the league to understand she's not here to be anyone's puppet. And enough to shift the narrative from what's wrong with Caitlin Clark to why wasn't anyone listening to her in the first place. Because when an athlete like Caitlin opens up about her emotional well-being, her frustrations with management, and her hunger to get back to joy, it should be a wake-up call. We're watching the pressure cooker boil over. She didn't drag the fever by name, but the message was clear. The system around her isn't holding up its end of the deal. She's doing her part, showing up, competing, carrying the media weight, promoting women's sports, taking hits online and off. And still, the structure is shaky. The workload's too much. The chemistry's not there. And instead of lashing out, she just calmly, plainly said, something's not working. And for someone who's been positioned as the face of the league, that's not just a personal observation. That's a critique of the infrastructure. The truth is women's sports have exploded in popularity, but not all the systems have caught up. And Clark? She's in the middle of that gap, pushing against it, being stretched by it. And now, finally, she's calling out. And you can tell this was building. The off-season silence, the controlled appearances, the curated brand moments. None of it felt like her. Not the firebrand from Iowa, who played with visible passion. Not the leader who connected with fans by being relatable and raw. Something fell off. Now we know why. She was overwhelmed, disconnected, a little burned out. And saying that out loud in a Glamour interview instead of a post-game presser, that wasn't accidental. That was intentional. She wanted this to be received differently. Not debated like a hot take. Not dissected like a turnover stat. But heard, felt, understood. That's why she talked about her mom. Why she brought up cooking. Why she reflected on athletes like Mia Hamm and Maya Moore. Legends who knew how to use their influence with purpose. She speaks, Caitlin's telling us. She's not just trying to be great at basketball. She's trying to build something that lasts. Something with impact. And that impact starts with transparency. With naming the things that aren't working. With showing other players and the fans that it's okay to say, I'm not okay with how this is going. She's giving herself space to breathe. And in doing so, she's giving permission to others too. And now, all eyes are going to be on what comes next. Will the Fevers step up and support her better? Will the league recognize that this wasn't just a player venting? It was a signal flare? Will the fans rally behind the real version of Caitlyn, not just the marketed one? This could be the beginning of something bigger. Not just a better season for her, but a better framework for what it means to support athletes who carry the weight of representation, responsibility, and rapid fame. Because Caitlyn Clark isn't asking for special treatment. She's asking for sustainability, for alignment, for the chance to love the game again the way she did before all this noise. And if she can find her way back to that joy, on her terms, it'll be the most powerful move of her career so far. So what do you think? Has Caitlyn finally said what needed to be said? Are we ready for a version of athlete storytelling that's actually honest? Tap like if you're rooting for her to take back control. Share this if you think more people need to hear what she's really dealing with. Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit subscribe because we're not done watching this story unfold in the next chapter. It's coming fast.